Hello parents. So I decided today to talk about sleep. Now, sleep is a big issue with parents, whether your kid isn't getting enough sleep, whether you're not getting enough sleep because your kid doesn't want to go to sleep. It's a big thing from newborn right the way through to even teenage years. Sleep is a hot button topic. So everybody comments when they babysit my kids how easy they are to fall asleep, like how easy they are to put to bed. Now, obviously, it's not 100% foolproof, unfortunately. Not every night is going to go as smooth as anything. A lot of factors can play around with that, like sickness, for example, or maybe there's been a shake up to their routine, or maybe something has happened within the family that's disturbed them a wee bit, like a transition, say starting a new school. So, especially coming up to September, there's going to be a lot of changes for children lately, whether that's starting a new school, going into a new class. A big transition for toddlers is moving from maybe their playgroup or their little nursery into the big nursery, and that can all come together to interrupt routines and disturb sleep. Now, the key that I found with my oldest was consistency. So I had read all the baby books whenever he was a baby, all the sleep books, and we did, the usual sort of giving them a feed and then a bath and then reading a story and then sleep. Now, he was breastfed at the start, so it didn't really work out that way because usually it was we'll read a story and then I'd put him down and he'd be awake. So then I'd end up having to feed him to sleep. But this didn't really give me much time to myself, so it started to become an issue. So what I then was doing was holding his hand and settling him as he got older until he fell asleep. And then that got to the point where I was slowly but surely starting to move further and further out of the room. And that worked for a wee while until it got to the point where I was at the doorway. But if I tried to move from the doorway or close the door over, then he'd be wide awake again. So I still wasn't getting any me time. I was still sitting at the door saying to him, it's okay, mummy's still here, and it wasn't going anywhere, it wasn't moving forward. So I decided then that I would hold his hand and rub his back, or whatever it was he needed, until he fell asleep, giving him that reassurance that I was still there, but waiting until he was fully asleep before I then crept away. And this seemed to work for a good wee while. It was a good bit of reassurance, but then it got to the point where I was having my second child and I was going to breastfeed them, and I couldn't exactly be sitting breastfeeding the baby while holding the 5-year-old's hand. It wasn't for working. So I had to think of something else. So what I then did at that point was, he was a bit older, so that helped, and he was able to realise that mummy had to feed the baby. So he was okay if we still had our story, and that was turned out to be the key, was the consistency. So there was always one thing that was still the same, and for us it was our story. So we would come in, I would be eating baby and reading a story, or daddy was maybe reading the story while I was feeding the baby, but either way the consistency was the story. And he soon came to realise then that it was okay, that story time was over, mummy was going to go feed the baby, and he soon realised that if he needed us, all he had to do was shout out or come and get us, and we'd be there. So there was still that reassurance of, we're just right here, mummy's right next door, I'm just feeding your baby sister, and we'll be here if you need me. And that seemed to really help with him. But again, what I found with them all was the consistency of it. So you have the same routine every night. Like now, for the girls, because I've two now, a 3-year-old and a 2-year-old, and their routine is, we come upstairs, we get our jammies on. Every other day we would get a bath, not all the time, but every other day we get a bath, jammies on, hair dried depending if they've been washed, and then again, stories. Stories, stories, stories. That is the key to the consistency. So they get a wee story, and then it's okay, night night, love you, the usual, have good dreams, and I can leave, close the door now. Bear in mind they do get up now and again, they are still only wee, but that consistency of that reassurance of being able to go back to them and say, it's okay, I'm here, what is it you need, what do you want, that seems to be the element. So consistency, structure, routine. That is the key to good sleep. So none of this crying it out where the child is left to cry for ages and ages. I know some parents use it and I know some swear by it, but that never sat right with me, and that's not my approach. For me, it's a positive approach. And I just think back to when I was a kid, and being afraid of the dark and all those wee things that you feel afraid, you feel uncertain, but you can't necessarily vocalize what it is. And I just think, like, if I was them, if I was their age, I would be getting up and I would be going in and wanting my mummy or my daddy there beside me. So why would they be any different? So the whole point is to reassure them and to be consistent, but in a positive approach. So if Rosie ever gets out of bed, it's usually just, we'll come in, we'll put her in and back in and be like, it's bedtime now, mummy's just next door, mummy's going to go to bed soon too, everybody's very tired, is there anything you need? No, a wee drink maybe. She still has a nappy on at night, so do you need your nappy changed? All the usual sort of checks are done. And if not, sometimes I will sit with her. It depends, because most of the time she's alright with me then leaving again, but sometimes she might be a wee bit upset, something maybe during the day has thrown her off. So occasionally I will still sit with her and rub her back or hold her hand, and you do see her like having a wee peek just to make sure I'm still there, and it's nice to know that she can have that wee peek and have a wee look and then is like, oh, it's okay, mummy's still here. So yeah, so that would be my top 3 things for sleep: consistency, routine, reassurance. So any questions, let me know in the comments, or you can find me at www.thepositiveparent.co.uk. So thanks.